Hello, today I'm going to be doing a quick review on the topping NX5 and the FiiO A5. Now I got the FiiO A5 used, so I don't have any accessories, but I do have the accessories for the NX5. So here's the user manual. Comes with a warranty card. And then the topping NX5 gives you two rubber bands that attach to your phone, a silicone pad to put in between your phone and the amp, a 3.5 to 3.5 audio cable, so you can hook up a line out on your phone or a DAC and put the other end into the line in on the amplifier. Micro USB to standard USB, so you can plug it into your computer so you can charge it. And here's the box, by the way. So as you can see from there, then the amp will be right in here. And then there's the accessory box. So here's the FiiO A5. There's the top, the bottom, side, the back, the other side. So we get a metal bass boost switch here. I really like this. I would have preferred that they also put that on the front for the high and low gain switch. And then you also get your headphone port in the middle, and then your line in is over here. And then here's your volume knob. And then there's your indicator. It's kind of hard to see. And the volume knob is not as smooth as the topping, but it still does turn slow, which is nice. And your power LED is on the top here. And when the battery is low, like 30 minutes left, it turns red. And they also have a charge LED on the top. And you also have a reset switch right there. And then here's the topping NX5. It's also square, just like the FiiO A5, but it's a little on the smaller side. So on the back here we have a micro USB, so that's where you charge it from your computer. They give you a power LED here. So 0 to 50% charge, it's red, and then 50 to 99, it's orange, and then when it's at 100% charge, it turns green. Nothing on the sides other than these two screws. And there's the top and the bottom. And then I like this volume knob much better. It's much smoother and very satisfying to turn. And I also like the grippy metal texture that they have on here as well. And then you get a bass boost switch and also a high and low gain switch. And then here's your line in, and then your headphone ports over here. Now I have the power requirements down in the description because I kind of forgot how much you need. But if my memory serves me good, I believe the Sennheiser 58X or the M1060Cs on low gain you need just under like 12 o'clock or about 12 o'clock. And then on like high gain you probably need just above 3 o'clock. And as for the FiiO A5, on low gain you need just above 12 o'clock, and on high gain you need just below 12 o'clock. So the NX5 seems to have a little more power. Again, I'll have the power requirements down in the description. So let's get into the audio quality now. So first let's explain sound signature. Now the topping NX5 is trying to strike a balance between being neutral and being slightly colored like the topping NX4. Now I do not consider the topping NX5 neutral because it is still slightly warm, and then the highs are still a little elevated, and then the vocals are still a little recessed. And if you did not know, the topping NX4 is a lot warmer than the NX5. The vocals are about similar, and the highs are probably a little more elevated, And the other thing I want to mention is that the topping NX5, even though it's striking a balance between neutral and colored, I would say the topping NX5 is a lot more transparent than the topping NX4. And what does that mean? Let's say if you have a water bottle with water in it, transparent means that you can see through the water bottle, right? So the NX5, since it's being more neutral, it's going to be more clear in the audio. So you do get some pretty good clarity out of this. Now I don't want to say that the topping NX4 has worse clarity than the NX5 because they're both very, very good in terms of clarity. It's just that the topping NX5 is more transparent. It's more neutral. So you get very good clarity. So you get less warmth, and the highs are also going to be more transparent as well, including the vocals. You're going to get more transparent in the vocals as well. So if you want something more neutral, then that's what the topping NX5 is. Now what about the FiiO A5? This is slightly more warm than the NX5, but it's not as warm as the topping NX4. And then the vocals. I would consider the FiiO A5 has neutral vocals. What that means is it's not forward and it's not recessed. And then the highs. Again, I don't consider the highs to be neutral. I consider it a little bit elevated, kind of like the NX5. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the bass now. So let's start with the bass boost turned off on the NX5. And the NX4, it still extends the deepest, and it also is the most thumpy, bassy, boomy type of bass. With the NX5, instead, you get something more like the FiiO A3. In other words, it's less thick, less bassy, so it's more tight and lean sounding. It's more neutral. So in other words, it also gives you more impact, more punch, and overall better control on the bass. Now, if you're trying to listen to something like dubstep, or in other words, trance music, you're definitely going to enjoy the topping NX4 more than the topping NX5. Now let's talk with the bass boost turned on. You turn it on, then you actually get a little bit of bass, a little more boom, and you can definitely tell that this has the strongest impact of all the amps I've tested that have a bass boost. And it's also the tightest, the least warm, and the least muddy. In other words, it's very similar to the FiiO A3. In other words, this is probably my favorite bass boost for any headphone that's already good enough in the bass and you want to turn the bass boost switch on. Now, if you have any headphones weak in the bass and you want to fill out the bass more, then I'd recommend the topping NX4. Now what about the FiiO A5? Well, let's talk with the bass boost on first. Now this is going to be the strongest, but also it's the warmest and the most muddy, and also the most bloated sounding. In other words, it's really bad, and I don't recommend it. Now when you turn the bass boost off, it's still stronger than the NX5, and still a little stronger than the NX4. So this one is definitely the weakest. Now the thing I didn't like about the FiiO A3 is when you turn the bass boost off, it sounded like it had no bass. Well, with the NX5, you actually still get bass with the bass boost turned off. So that's very good. But if you turn the bass boost off on the FiiO A5, I can still tell that it's a little bloated. Just a little bit. Just enough to bother me to where I'm probably going to decide to get rid of the FiiO A5. Because I got a lot of other things. And I'm putting this up on the chopping block. Anywho's, so it's a little more bloated. And that's why I'd recommend the topping NX4. Because it's able to fill out the bass regions just kind of like the FiiO A5, but it has better control and it's not as bloated as the A5. In fact, it's not bloated at all. So there's two different types of bass profiles I like, and the topping NX5 does one, and then the topping NX4 does the other end of the spectrum. So that's pretty much bass boost. So let's talk about the vocals. So like I said, the vocals are more neutral on the FiiO A5. So if I try to play a song where I'm trying to be shouty, like Lindsey Sterling, Shatter Me, the vocals can be a bit congested and very shouty sounding on the FiiO A5. On the NX5 it comes much more clear sounding, and it doesn't get in your face enough to where it becomes very shouty. And the same thing applies for the NX4. Now you also got the highs. Now the NX4 kind of has warm and very natural sounding highs. I would say the NX5 isn't as warm, but it's almost as natural sounding as the NX4. While the FiiO A5 has more sparkly, more metallic sounding highs, a little less natural. Now let's talk about instrument separation, and that's where, in resolution, detail, that's where the FiiO A5 is its biggest downfall. Is that when I'm listening to a playlist, let's say if I listen to 10 songs on the FiiO A5, or if I'm doing my tests and I'm only doing like 10 seconds at a time. But let's say I listen to 10 songs on the FiiO, and then I switch over to the NX5. You get way better detail with the NX5, and you get better instrument separation, and overall just a better sound quality, and I end up enjoying the NX5 more than I do with the FiiO A5. But then on the other hand, if you want something a little more colored and slightly better detail and instrument separation, especially when you're using the USB port on the NX4, in other words the DAC and the amp, then it is going to be a little more enjoyable than the topping NX5. Next, let's talk about soundstage. Now the NX4 is the widest of the three. Then in between those two would be the FiiO A5, and then the topping NX5 is the most narrow in terms of soundstage. But it has pretty good, again, it has pretty good imaging. And back to the instrument separation, the FiiO A5 is going to sound a little more congested compared to the topping NX5. So you lose some detail, you lose some sounds. They get kind of masked, especially because of that bloated bass, because it's still a little bit there. Other than that, let's go ahead and get to the conclusion now. Now, the NX5 actually weighs a little less than the FiiO A5. It also has twice the battery life. It also has better sound quality. And it has a sound signature I do like. But if I want something maybe a little more fun, a little more colored, then I would take the topping NX4. Especially if you're going to be plugging into a laptop or a phone that has a really bad DAC, you're going to want to get the topping NX4. Now if you have a phone like the LG V40, which has like the quad saber DAC in it, and if you think that phone has a good enough DAC, and you plug it into just an amp, you might actually get some pretty good sound quality out of this. But I think that's the downside of both of these, is they don't come with a DAC included. So if you have a laptop or phone that has pretty bad line out DAC performance, it's not going to make these sound all that great. But if you do have a phone or just a computer, then I would definitely recommend the topping NX5 over the FiiO A5. And that's basically everything I want to talk about in this review. So thank you for watching.